I'm going to call this work session of the City Council to order. And our business this evening is interviews with Planning Commission candidates. We have one opening. At this time, we'll have two more at the end of 2016. So if you're not chosen, I hope you'll stay in the mix, because we've had really such a good panel this evening. It's really pleased to see this many totally qualified people applying for the Planning Commission. What we'll do is just run through with each of you, and what I'd ask you to do initially is tell us just a little bit, we're going to move right along, so if you tell us just a little bit about yourselves and why you wish to serve on the Planning Commission, and we'll start with you, Mark, and we'll go this direction.
Okay, I'm Mark Wigg. I lived in Salem for a long time, 30 plus years or so, and my background is I was schooled as a forester, worked in forestry for 20 years, then worked with the Department of Transportation as in transportation planning and doing environmental impact statements for large transportation projects. Most of the large ones in Portland area I was a project manager on, and then I have been in consulting, partly with the consulting back to the Department of Transportation, and most recently I am now a project manager with the Oregon Department of Forestry, and if I need it.
Thank you.
This smaller group.
We're recording it.
Oh, okay, okay. And so now I'm working at the Oregon Department of Forestry as a project manager, and I've been doing a lot of different activities in the city. I've been on the Parks Board. I actually worked as a city planner here for a little while in the city of Salem, and got to know a lot of the rules and regulations. Along with being in transportation, you get to know a lot of the rules and regulations in land use planning. And so I bring a broad background to this position. I would, and I spend a lot of time doing volunteer activities in the city of Salem, building trails, those kind of things, and down in the south end of town, help put in some trails down at Skyline Park around Sprague, and those are used by the school kids. I've heard from the teachers they love those trails, and so I see this opportunity as again, to help the city in any way I can, and that's where it is. Just a little side note, I saw in the staff report that says let's go to allowing a couple of people from the real estate developers, and it said in that report, it said, because we don't have enough qualified applicants. And I'm going, really? Yeah, anyway.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Josh?
Hi, my name is Jocelyn Pollock, and my background is I have a business degree and a law degree. And when I was in law school, I took a lot of environmental classes and real estate. My history is investigation is really my background, and it was a lot of it was environmental investigation, and so I get to travel all over the United States and see what worked and didn't work in certain areas where there was both manufacturing and areas where there was dumping, and really, back in the day when people really didn't really look at things before, they just let it happen. 7 years ago, my husband got a job here, and I followed him here, and I had the pleasure of being part of West Salem Neighborhood Association for almost 6 years. 5 years, 6 years on the land use committee, and I'm now the land use chair for several years now. And thing about West Salem, and I can't say they're any different from any other neighborhood, but they're always asking me why. So that I have to come prepared, so it's not just looking at what's in front of the Salem code, but the Oregon code, and that has gotten me involved in a lot of the land planning from the state through. And in one case, it was even, I think, a Federal Disabilities Act and things such as that. So I really have my hands filled recently with a lot of land use, and I find it to be very exciting. And there's just this delicate balance between interested parties, and I find that the information and conversation and appropriate planning, I think, can resolve and make things better. So
Thank you, Josh. Christy?
Hi, I'm Christy Nesnansky, and my journey to this seat has been very interesting. I started out because I wanted chickens, and I didn't know why we couldn't have chickens, and somebody said my city councilor voted against chickens, Mr. Bennett, and I proceeded
Not for long, though, Christy.
I know. But I was new to Salem, I was a new homeowner, and I began to get involved in the process that develops cities. I served on my neighborhood association for a number of years. I eventually ended up on the Historic Landmarks Commission, where I've served for 5 years. And currently, I'm a project manager at an architecture firm here in town, and I specialize in land use and entitlements for senior housing projects all over the country. So what I do for a living is read land use code. I am a homeowner in an older neighborhood here in town, and I've worked with my neighborhood association on the neighborhood plan that we've put forward with the city, and the growth and development of this city matters to me as a homeowner, as an employee, and as a future resident with my children going to school and all of those kind of things. And I feel like I have a unique perspective because I've come before you and asked for things that change the code. I'm a homeowner, so I'm invested. I'm assuming most of us are homeowners, but I'm invested in the development that happens around me. But I've also come before city councils and planning commissions to get development projects approved. And it is a delicate balance of being a neighbor, being a citizen, being a property owner, being a developer, and finding projects that work and mesh and are to the betterment of the entire community and not just one party. And I think that my background would let me see it from a lot of different points of view.
Thank you. Adam?
So Adam Kohler, recent, somebody who just moved to Salem about 2.5 years ago. I have quite a different background, I have a feeling, from the rest of the panel here. My education is in electrical engineering. I have a master's in business administration. I did take actually passed the Oregon realtor's exam. Never got licensed because I moved to Boise for family reasons. But I do have some of that background. But I'm not as well versed in it, obviously, as the first three individuals that have spoken. That being said, I'm very passionate about my community. I love Salem, homeowner as well. This is probably the best place that we have lived. My family is settled in very well. And through my interactions with the Chamber of Commerce, it was presented to me that there was a need for this a number of months ago. And one of the best things that I've learned in working with the Chamber is the call to action and to help out your community and to make a difference where it matters. And so I am involved in quite a few organizations, from the small to my children's school. I've been very well versed in that. I've helped out with the United Way. I just was elected to their board. We have our first meeting on Wednesday. I'm part of the Salem Kaiser budget citizen review budget committee. So those are just some of the things that I'm trying to get involved as a new member of the Salem community. And so in terms of background and experience, well versed in many things. I hope I have a common sense approach to things. The idea of going into the nitty gritty of each and every land use to me sounds a little bit boring, to be honest with you. But I think that's why there's an entire committee that is involved in that. But again, in terms of interest in why to do this, is that it's that call to serve to make a difference in the community.
Great. Thank you very much. Shane?
Hi, thank you all for being so alert on a Monday evening. My background, as some of you may know, is that I've been in the community since 1977, having moved here from North Carolina. I had quite a long time of employment with the state. My last position with them was the assistant director for the Department of Corrections. So I don't necessarily think that is a skill set that would help me on the commission. However, my current job is with the Oregon Community Foundation. I'm the regional director for this region. That doesn't pertain to it either. But I have been very intentional in my volunteer opportunities with the city since 1977. Building up to the point where I really would like to be on the Planning Commission, and I think I've built a repertoire behind me of skills that would help. I've served on the Budget Committee. I was on the Parks and Rec Advisory Board for 2 seasons. I was on the Historic Landmarks Commission, and I'm currently now the only city-involved committee that I'm on is the Public Arts Commission, which has just been a great opportunity. I think the Planning Commission is a very powerful tool at your disposal. I think the committee has, the city has changed so much in the time that I've been here, and I think the commission has done a very good job on advising the commission. I think I could bring that skill set. So that is my story.
Thank you. Tom?
Hi, my name is Tom Gallagher, and it's always kind of nice to go last because they've all said everything. I have no qualification for being on the Planning Commission except I've served on it before. And I disagree with almost everything they said about what the Planning Commission does, because it really is, you know, kind of a step in the appeals process right now. One of the reasons I've come back and said maybe I'd like to run again or serve in the commission is I think that 3 things are going to happen in Salem in the next few years. And I think you have 2 very good bodies, the Budget Committee and the Planning Commission, that can be of much greater assistance to the City Council in vetting some of the issues that are going to come in front of you. One of the things I'm going to talk about just on the outside edge, nobody spent any time talking about this when I was on the commission before, is greenhouse gas reduction. And the impact greenhouse gas reduction is going to have on cities and counties. The rubber's going to hit the road in a little town like this. I use just a simple example. When the utilities under 111D are going to start cutting back on fossil fuel generation and low carbon fuel passes, your concept of bicycle transportation and walking transportation is going to take on a whole different complex. And the politics in talking about that is not something that can really be done in a Planning Commission hearing or even in a couple hearings in front of this group. You're going to need some people, and I think the volunteers that are to help staff that are going to be able to understand this and get outside of these issues. I think the Planning Commission should spend more time, less time doing appellate work and more time talking to the community, more time discussing issues. I think the Planning Commission should be, at least on a quarterly basis, the chair should be in front of this group, talking from a citizen perspective and from your Planning Commission perspective on the issues in front of you. Transportation funding is going to dry up and take another hit. Transportation issues and land use issues are imminently tied together. So the only reason I came back and said, well, maybe I'd like to put in some more Tuesday nights down in this room like you do on Monday night, is because I think you need a broader set of lay volunteers that are willing to spend the time and interface with the staff and interface on these issues to a much bigger degree. When I didn't run for reappointment, it was because I was still working, because I just got done with my 2nd knee surgery, because I got pretty frustrated over the bike plan that you guys adopted. And you're going to see the bike plan again. You're going to have to see the bike plan again. And it's not going to be easy to figure out how to do it. And I think the Planning Commission can really help you on that, along with the staff, if they spend some time thinking about these issues and talking about these issues and connecting with the community on these issues. So if you want the Planning Commission to do something like that, you know, almost any one of these people would be helpful for you on that. But I've spent 40 years dealing with state, local policy. I've been a lobbyist for 40 years. I worked the policy side of all of these issues. And it's not just land use planning. Land use planning is probably the simplest part of your problems. Until they change big chunks of that, you're going to have trouble with economic development and industrial siting and so forth in the city. So good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, members of the council, any questions? Councillor Dickey.
Great, thank you, and thank you all. I mean, I'm so excited that we have such a great panel of candidates. It makes the decision difficult, but also it's exciting to see that we have such great candidates, a whole panel of them. So thanks for coming down and being willing to give your time, not just for tonight, but to the Planning Commission. So. And my question is, I recently gave a presentation at a conference talking about jurisdictions, and in doing the research, realizing that Oregon actually has 28 recognized jurisdictions plus state, federal, and school districts. So there are a lot of jurisdictions. They're all around us. Some of them we deal with more often than others. So my question is, can you just kind of lend some perspective on your understanding on city planning as it relates to other jurisdictions that might be stakeholders in our community?
I could probably take a stab. Are you going down? Do you want to do linear?
Why
Would
don't we
that be
go
easier?
ahead, Jane? Why don't you start? And we'll...
Okay. I think each situation in a municipality in Oregon is going to be a little bit different. I think that, and I mentioned this in my responses to you, that Salem is challenged and also benefits from the relationship it has with the state government. On the one hand, it really is a boon to have a lot of state employees to sort of balance some pretty tough economic times. But on the other hand, those state entities don't contribute through our tax system at all to make those, for the supports that they need, water, fire, et cetera. But I think Salem has done a good job and will continue to do a good job in acting as a collaborator, a leader. I think certain situations will naturally say the city should take a lead. Other situations, it might be the state. For example, on the North Park blocks, that development where they worked with the neighborhood, that was a very collaborative effort. I think on the state hospital on Center Street, I think the state took more of that initial conversation, although the local support with Hazel Patton and her group came right in and was very collaborative in that process. So that's a very clear jurisdictional distinction, but I don't want to be a mic hog.
Adam?
Well, so I guess your question was, what is your understanding of it, or is your question, what is your approach to the relationships? Because my understanding of the 28 jurisdictions plus additionals would be obviously limited because of being a recent transplant over to Oregon. But I think it's, from a relationship standpoint, it's a balancing act. I mean, you have situations, and I, again, answered this in part of my questionnaire. Salem is well respected. Salem also has a lot of power. But at the same point, you have to make sure that you don't abuse that power. And a lot of that is relationship-wise, but also you have to make sure that that power is used for the benefit of the residents of the city. It doesn't do us as an entity any good to make a stand, plant a flag, if it's to the detriment of the community members, a detriment to the economy and everything else. And I think that's part of that. There are rules and there are established pecking orders, but there also are relationships that need to be maintained, and the relationships can be fostered and continued to the benefit of everyone involved. Obviously, there are other entities that are going to disagree and think that, hey, the state has more power in Salem. You're just, you're the third largest city in the state, and we're going to treat you that way. And it's working through those things that is vitally important to the success of the city.
Thank you. Christy?
Well, what's interesting about all the different jurisdictions, especially in this area, there's a lot of different people who have vested interest in the growth and development and changes that happen to this community. And in my opinion, it's our job as the city to be a leader in collaborative efforts, because none of us are an island. And if you start making decisions and making major changes that affect multiple jurisdictions without any sort of cooperation, it doesn't bode well for anyone. It doesn't bode well for the community. It doesn't bode well for residents. And I think the city itself should be a leader in those collaborative efforts, and to lead by example, in the same way that when you're going to do a code change, and yeah, I'm a code junkie, so I apologize. The city council meets and has work sessions with the planning commission, and you talk about the changes and what the effects are. In my mind, those are the same sort of opportunities that you have when you're working with, whether it's the county or the state or even local groups that may not have any power, but have a vested interest in decisions that are made. The city should be a leader in those.
Josh?
One of the things that I notice as I'm, doing my research is that there's a lot of money and efforts done into a lot of research, and to make a decision in void of what's coming down the pike in the federal, the state, even nearby cities, what they've done. I think that the land use is typically falling down to the city level, and even the state acknowledges that. But there's positive research and funding and all of that actually, when the city goes to formulate their goals and policies, and I'm going to particularly say smart growth. We have an urban growth boundary, and that's to protect our outside resources, but it's also to take a look inside where we're going to build, how we're going to fund that infrastructure. Are we going to try to help developers who may not want to touch infill or that, but take a look at other jurisdictions where maybe they're making funding available, or teaching the developers on how to come in and make it profitable to infill development or redevelopment and revitalize. So I believe that when it comes to jurisdictional, I think to make a decision without actually looking at other studies, whether it's in the city, whether it's like some of the city has reached out to the universities to have them help the students there, and just getting, like I said before, gathering the information so that you can be fully informed and make a decision in setting the goals that would incorporate incorporate what you feel is the best to have the best for the decision makers.
Mark, thank you. Josh?
On larger projects, the city does a really good job and brings in, like on the Salem River crossing, there's a lot of other agencies and jurisdictions involved with that project. So on larger projects like that, they do tend to involve that. But sometimes the city looks at that urban growth boundary and says, well, we can't plan anything beyond that. And so it's kind of like, well, we can't do a cooperative thing with Marion County or Polk County because, oh, there's the urban growth boundary, so let's not talk about anything that spans that. And I think there's opportunities, especially like in the parks plan, that they could look a little bit beyond that boundary and work with Marion County, Polk County on helping to, maybe it's planning for parks, maybe it's planning for transportation projects. But I think we kind of constrain ourselves sometimes by saying, oh, here's the urban growth boundary, we can't look beyond that.
Thank you. Tom?
I thought whoever put that question on that was a very perceptive issue to raise, because I don't think it's being done very well. And I don't think it's being done very well because there's not a lack of goodwill and a lack of good ideas and a lot of lack of planning. It's time. I mean, you have a staff that gets cut, your budget comes down every year. Right now, you usually rely on the different staffs at the school district or Willamette or wherever it is to communicate with your staffing. And they'll do that when they have an issue, when they need a permit, when they need to come in here. The looking ahead at this, the trying to integrate this, the trying to create a whole community plan is going to take more time and resources than you have. And this is a city manager system, and I look around the room, and I've been in this room, about how much time you guys put in, and I know most of you that have run for this offices, I've seen you in different jobs. You don't have a lot of time left. How are you going to expand the base of your active citizens? On the other hand, you can't turn them loose. You can't give them the authority. You can't let them do your job or somebody else's job. So that's when I answered a little bit of this in my answer to the questions a little bit before. You're going to have to find some additional resources that you can sort of empower to reach out and communicate and think about these things. And that's a different way to look at things. I mean, you all know that we're beginning to live in a more resource-constrained world right now. That doesn't mean any of the interest groups or any of the people that want something have gone away. They're still there. And how we meet those needs and how we do it. Saw it on the Planning Commission before, trying to put a bike path through Willamette Well, they have a whole different situation. They have security issues there. They don't want bicycles riding through there. Trying to put a bike path, I'll use that one because it's the last one I worked on, through the cemetery up here. The cemetery doesn't want a bike path through the cemetery, but how do you get connectivity there? How do you handle the politics of putting these things together? How do you say more no and less yes? How do you say to other people you have to do this? And I'm just going to come back and say, you need more resources and more help. And you need to, you have an agenda, it gets put together, you spend a lot of time working and thinking about this. When's the last time as a group you got to sit around and think about these ideas? And I don't know. I don't know what the answers to these are, but I think you're going to need some resources to solve those problems.
Thank you, Tom. Other questions? Yeah, Councilor Clem.
Thank you, Councilor Bennett. Please explain how you would interact with the neighborhood associations if appointed to the Planning Commission.
Okay, guys, we're going to make him go.
Oh, Lord. You have some very active and good neighborhood associations, at least you did when I was more active here. You have some that have less resources. I've been active in my West Salem Neighborhood Association for a while. You get a lot of people stuck in their different positions, wedged in there. What am I saying? It's a way to get more material and more local input to you through the neighborhood associations, and politically I think they can be very important. I think they're a very good plan. You have some outreach through the staff that goes to the neighborhood associations, but I don't think they're really able to perform the job that you'd like to be able to have them do. There were many, many times here in the Planning Commission hearing where the neighborhood association hadn't taken a position on something. There's too many issues that go through there. So how do you work with the neighborhood associations? I think the Planning Commission should have more outreach to the neighborhood associations. I was surprised that I wasn't sort of required to go to at least put in an appearance at the neighborhood associations in the ward that I was in, but they aren't. These are just practical administrative things. I think we're a long time past the big think ideas, and we're now into delivery. And delivery requires, a different thought and a different direction and a different level of work.
Mark?
I was chair of the SCAN Neighborhood Association for 4 years, 5 years, and on that neighborhood association for about 8. And the thing that the neighborhood associations felt sometimes, not always, but is just a lack of respect for, they put in a lot of efforts and they try to do a lot of good work, and they didn't feel like they were being heard sometimes. And I think they are that first, when issues come up, you get a lot of people showing up at a neighborhood association meeting. And they take a lot of that first input and are trying to translate that for you folks. And I think that it would be, it's nice to support them, but I also think that they tend to be, the neighborhood associations tend to be so large that it is almost not neighborly. When you get 10,000 people, those, that's big. And so somehow to figure out ways of communicating with that large of a group and coming up with some sort of a consensus is a challenge. And I think we need to look at new ways of reaching out to the neighbors on issues.
Thank you. Josh?
Fair and open. That's always been when I'm the land use chair, and that's really my issue there with them, is that giving people a voice, letting them air out their concerns, and really weeding out the relevant and material from the immaterial, and basically letting them giving them the education in certain areas so that they can make a decision when they do support. West Salem is different than the other neighborhood associations. It's a town hall, so every member votes that's attending there. There's not a committee the board doesn't vote. Everybody that attends vote. That's why it's very important for us to educate our neighborhoods, neighborhood associations. I sometimes am kind of disappointed when I come to these hearings and it'll only be, you know, a handful of neighborhood associations that act. I recently went to the meeting for land use chairs to deal with the bucket list on the UDC, and I was very disappointed there was only 4 of us there. So I think it's an advisory group. It's an important first step for everybody to voice. The whole idea of having public testimony and everything is to get things on the record, because when the commission makes a decision, it has to make a decision on the information within the record. And so I think there needs to be a revitalization, some kind of outreach to get people more excited about their neighborhood associations, to have them understand that when a neighborhood association sends in a letter of support or of opposition to the planning commission or to the city commission, that is your voice and you should not give it up lightly. And
Thanks.
that's how I would react with them. I take it for what it comes to me in writing or public testimony is very, very important.
Great, thanks, Josh. Chrissy?
Neighborhood associations. I've been on them, I've been before them. They can be a mixed bag, but ultimately they represent the public, they represent the neighbors. They are a first step in vetting a lot of things. In the same way that the Planning Commission hears proposals and makes a recommendation to you, neighborhood associations hear proposals, they get information from the neighbors, they get reactions, they vet the process, and then they bring a recommendation either to you or to the Planning Commission. And that voice should not be taken lightly. I also think one of the great things that Salem has been working on are the neighborhood plans. And what's so great about the neighborhood plans, and not every neighborhood has one yet, but I know that NEN and SCAN just did one recently. What I really like about that is a long process. It's vetted with the city works in cooperation, and a neighborhood has a chance to look at their neighborhood as a whole, the opportunities for growth and development and for changes, and they get a chance to have a voice and put it in writing in terms of how they see the future of their neighborhood. And the city is part of that. It's not neighbors on their own, it's a cooperation. And that is something that, especially as Planning Commission members, you can look at, and it doesn't change with every year based on who's on the association or who's on the board or who the neighbors are. It's something that's been, I think ours was a 2-year process, maybe 3-year process. And now that it's been established and been, you know, and goes through the process of adoption, you have a clear idea of how a neighborhood should grow. And I think all of those things together, I just think that's important, and it's an important point of view, and it's important for neighbors to have a voice.
Thank you. Adam?
So, and this might be a little bit of a cynical view on it, but I think a lot of residents and neighbors don't really care until it impacts them. And they don't find out until it's too late. And it's the not in my backyard type of an attitude where, I mean, to be honest with you, the development of the neighborhood really doesn't involve me any more than what my 2 neighbors are doing. I think that's not my general feel, but I think that's the general feel for a lot of people in, not just in Salem, but in a lot of communities. To combat that, I think you have to get the information out. You have to get up in front of them. You're aware of what's going to happen because you're looking at the long-range plan. You need to be able to get out there, get to the neighborhood association, spread the word early, make sure that there is no disinformation, make sure that there is some buy-in there, and also make sure that the voice is heard properly. Too many times you have these meetings where everybody comes in and they're screaming, yelling, I can't believe this is happening. Well, that ball has been rolling for 2 years. Where have you been? And so getting out in front of it, sharing that information with as much lead time is probably the most important thing. But then being out and meeting with them and not presenting your opinion, but presenting the facts. If they are that voice, if they are the first thing, the voice for the entire community, they need to be able to see the facts and make their own decisions and then present them to you. And then as part of your role is to present that to the city.
Jane?
I don't have much more to add because I think everybody's pretty much hit the high points, that it's just as important to make sure we're sharing timely, accurate information with our constituents. your constituents, as it is to provide them ample opportunity to share their points of view. I believe this position is an at-large position, am I correct? So the other positions, although this position could pinch hit, it would be a good opportunity for the counselor and then that counselor's planning commission representative to kind of join forces on some of this and do what what Tom has suggested in trying to engage the constituents a little bit. Put some of the work on your planning commission person to do some of that for you, as opposed to you having to carry that water. I thought that was a very good point, Tom. And beyond that, I don't have anything to add.
Thank you. Councilor Nanki.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is pretty easy. I know some of them, but not necessarily the others. What neighborhood association do you reside in?
Mark?
Skank.
West Salem.
I'm in Ward 4. I don't know if we have a neighborhood association. Nobody's ever shared any information. To be honest with you.
I'm Scan also.
West Salem.
Cool. Thanks.
Okay. Any further questions? Do you have any questions of individuals that you just want to, you heard something that struck you'd like to ask about it? You're just a lively bunch. Jeez.
I just think it's fantastic that we
Yes.
have a wonderful panel that.
Well, I was real taken with Mark's comment at the beginning about the change in the ordinance around the Planning Commission that's coming toward us. And I wonder, because I think one of the issues inherent in that is bias. And whether or not, what kind of biases people bring to the Planning Commission. And that's, of course, one of the real fundamental problems we have with going out and talking to neighborhood. I mean, you all that are in neighborhoods I represent know I have to leave the room when you start talking about this, so will you. And I'd be interested. So I'll be interested in I'd just like to hear what are the kinds of biases you bring to this, or do you know how to deal with bias when you see it, you know? I mean, Krista here wanted chickens and developed this bias apparently toward me over time. So Christy, why don't you start talking about bias a little?
So bias, you know, it's funny because you send out all these questions and I work really hard to not show any bias in my answers.
But you gotta have some.
Of course, we all do. However, I am married to a journalist and we spend a lot of time talking about bias and political bias and trying to be objective. On the Historic Landmarks Commission, it's been a little bit easier because it's quasi-judicial. It's not discretionary. It's based on the code. Do they meet the code? You know, do you think they meet the code? I mean, it's a lot more cut and dried than what the Planning Commission and City Council deal with. I do have biases. I have an idea in my head of how I think Salem should grow, and obviously chickens, but I kind of gave it up at the very beginning. But I also think that the process is really, really important. It's not just about me. It's not about my individual voice. It is about the neighborhood associations and other property owners and developers and the economic impact that has on the city. It can't just be about me and my point of view. It has to be about the bigger picture all the time. And that's hard. It's hard to set that aside and make decisions that you think are right for the community. You guys deal with that every day. That's exactly what you guys do. However, there is a certain level of, you bring people to either the Planning Commission or the City Council because of their bias, because of their point of view or their experience or their expertise. And so a certain element of that is important in choosing which one of us you want and what the temperature is of the other members on the Planning Commission. And so I don't know exactly what the answer is to your question. Do I have bias? Of course. Can I set it aside for the betterment of our community? Absolutely.
Great. Adam?
It's a similar answer, which is pretty funny. I think the six of us sitting here probably have that. My biggest one is that I always point out what is done wrong, what can be done better. I mean, I look at the way let's take a shopping mall is developed. And I think they did this wrong, they did that wrong. Wouldn't it be better if they did this? A lot of that is done due to circumstances that are outside of the decision maker's control. I fully understand that. I have a job where we have a large budget and my budget gets cut. I can tell you every single quarter, I'm going to lose a certain percentage of my budget. I'm going to have to lose headcount. I'm going to have to deal with those things. So I'm going to have to make those hard decisions. Where somebody else who's evaluating my work is saying, he did it wrong, why did he do that? I can overcome that. I do it every day. But that is the toughest thing for me, and I think that's the biggest reason why I'm pleased to be in front of you right now, is to get that opportunity. You can complain all you want, but if you're not willing to do something about it, then you really should just be complaining to the wall. But to be honest with you, it's looking at how things are. I think my answer to one of the questions, the term disjointed came out in terms of the way that planning was done. And a lot of that is my own internal bias that everything should be roses and it should be built perfectly and it should be done with an infinite budget and, you know, we can all be prosperous. But it was pretty funny, it's a similar answer, you know, just looking at it that way. So
Thank you. Jane?
Yes, I have biases, but I'd like to think of them as I have opinions, constructive opinions, and it's just how you use that skill set. I can't imagine that any of us don't have a bias. I have a bias. I want downtown to be vital. I want there to be multifamily housing opportunities in downtown Salem that are affordable to all levels of families. I would like to see Willamette expand to the east and revitalize that neighborhood as opposed to coming into the downtown area. So sure, I've got them, but I am trained well enough to put those aside and definitely recognize when I need to recuse myself from a conversation.
Tom, do you want me to skip you on this one?
No. Just two quick thoughts. One, I mean, you know who's on your planning commission now, and you ought to fill this vacancy with somebody that adds something that's not on there. You need diversity on the planning commission. You need them to be able to talk and listen to each other. I thought the last time I was on, there were probably too many people from the development community. I thought there wasn't enough dialogue going on in and among the planning commission. I have a very, very, very big bias, and you probably should not appoint me. You should appoint one of the more qualified people because of this. David Bragdon, when he was head of Metro, once said something very, very perceptive, I thought. In the midst of all the Metro debates on quality of life, he said quality of life begins with a job. And my bias on this is too many times I get involved with interest groups that have no interest in compromising. They have interest in pushing their agenda. And it's only in this room where people, either as commissioners or as council people who are elected, who can go through and peel back the layers of that to find out when you're getting down toward that public policy, that thing that really works. Because it is NIMBY. It is don't do it here, do it somewhere else. It's all of this and all of that. But at some point in time, and that's my bias, people got to compromise, and things have to work, and things have to move forward. If they don't, you're going to move back.
Thank you. You brought it up. What do you think?
What I've worked with the Forest Service when they had the spotted owl controversy, and there's a lot of issues raised and a lot of conflict, and I've worked with the Department of Transportation, and I think you see now transportation issues, sometimes they can have a lot of conflict on those transportation issues. And what I try to do on those things is keep listening and keep asking, because you keep digging and sometimes you can find where are the commonalities, what do these people really want, because sometimes people just say no, but that's not enough. Don't just say no. You know, let's talk about that more. What is it that you don't want? You don't want the noise? We can do something. I mean, you can dig into things and find out where can you find something that allows a win-win. And when I was, with the Department of Transportation, I was given Excellence Awards for creativity and coming up with unique solutions to complex problems. And it's by bringing people together and listening, regardless of my bias. What I want to do is I want to find that win-win for everybody, so that we can have, as they talk about in development of informed consent, that people they aren't necessarily going to love it, but they'll allow it. And sometimes that's as good as you can get.
Yeah. Josh?
Well, I've been over 15 years as an investigator, and my opinion when I take the stand means nothing. It's what the facts and what is relevant and material. And the Planning Commission is an advisory as well as a quasi-judicial. Fair does not always mean that everybody's going to agree with the results, but it's about good faith. The code brings in a lot of criteria and standards in which there's going to be discretion and judgment. And the issue is making sure that the information that's on the record, that you make a decision that's fair and made informed and in good faith based on the information before you. Now, the thing is there, though, I can be an advocate for the city council that sets goals and policies. When they set goals and policies, this might, when they, like I said before, when you take all these things from different jurisdictions, if the city is where the land decision is going to be made, it's the city takes initiative to bring those together, set a goal and policy for which the Planning Commission can take their decision-making in this discretion and judgment when they're interpreting things. When you say undue hardships, some of these criteria, especially on a variance and adjustments, what is undue hardships? What adverse impact are you going to have in the community? That's a discretion and judgment based on what's record, and then also take into account what the city council would like to see, how the city would be in the future.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Well, I just really appreciate, I know the other counselors do as well, you taking your time this evening. It was really informative. As I said, we will be selecting one new member for the Planning Commission December 15th. If you're not chosen, please come back again. There will be 2 more openings next year, and the openings seem to be continuous. So having such a great panel, you all are just excellent. So please stay with us on this. We really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Work session's adjourned. Call to order the Salem Housing Authority meeting for December 8th, 2014. If the recorder would please call the roll.
Commissioner Tessler? Commissioner Nanke?
Here.
Commissioner Clausen? Here. Commissioner Dickey? Here. Commissioner Rogers? Here. Commissioner Bernards? Here. Commissioner Clem? Here. Commissioner Heine is absent. Chair Bennett?
Here. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Full house, do we need to bring some more chairs?
No one signed up for public comment. Is there anyone who wants to address the Housing Authority? Commissioner Nanke, the consent calendar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
Excellent. Second by Bernards. Ms. Roach, you have anything to?
I do have a few comments, if I could.
You could.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to update the commission on the status of the 4 projects now. I always kind of leave the South Fair project out. Parkway West, Parkway East, Robert Lindsay Tower, and South Fair is under renovation as well, utilizing some federal funds through the city. South Fair project is about 80% complete, and that project is really about water source, water lines, and some infrastructure systems in the properties. Some sidewalk, ADA, Parkway West, Parkway East, and Robert Lindsay Tower you're much more familiar with. Parkway West and Robert Lindsay Tower, both properties are 90%, the renovation is 90% complete. We're kind of moving into the punch phase and looking at making sure everything's in an appropriate order and appropriate use. Parkway East is a little behind, about 85% complete. All three properties will be finished by, they'll all be occupied by the end of December, which is the key test for our funding source. Contracts, the construction contracts continue into the February for closeout. So everything's going well. We had an opportunity for some tours for commissioners, and happy to make that available to anybody anytime. So I can send out an email and set up some times and see if they work, and happy to do that. And I think that's all I had. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions? Yes, Councilor.
Thank you. I'd just like to comment on the Community Connections Program self-sufficiency that I've read those over the years, and it's always impressive to see people bring themselves out of the programs and being self-sufficient. I think that's a neat thing, and it's happened a lot, and that's just really nice for the program and makes you feel good, I guess. Just thank you for doing all that.
Thank you.
Councilor Bernards.
I just wanted to say, publicly say, thank you for giving me a tour of the facilities, Robert Lindsay Tower and Parkway West and East, both of which, well, actually all three things were under construction, full construction at this point. Elected official Jim Lewis joined me that afternoon, but had a good time understanding. We sit here in this room and we talk about all these different projects and literally millions of dollars. It really helps to go out and see the projects as they are being done, and what you're having to be faced with, what's going on, some of the history, the due diligence that you go through. So thank you for taking me and others out.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments on any of the consent agenda? All those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? Motion passes. There's no special orders of business or unfinished or new business, so Housing Authority is adjourned. Call to order the Urban Renewal Agency of the City of Salem.
Board Member Bennett.
Recorder would please call the roll.
Board Member Bennett.
Here.
Board Member Tessler. Absent. Board Member Nanki.
Here.
Board Member Clausen.
Here.
Board Member Dickey.
Here.
Board Member Rogers.
Here.
Board Member Bernards.
Here.
Board Member Clem.
Here.
And Chair Peterson is absent.
All right, thank you. Do we have any reports from boards, commissions, or committees?
No.
No. Public comment? We have no public comment. Is there any member of the public that would like to address the Urban Renewal Agency? Okay. Councilor Nanki, the consent calendar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move the consent calendar as provided.
Second.
Second by Bernards.
Actually, if I can just speak to that
Yes, you
quickly.
may.
Those action items that are on our agenda tonight inside the consent calendar are appointment to Downtown Advisory Board and North Gateway Redevelopment Advisory Boards, and then a second amendment of a grant agreement for sidewalk improvements between the McGill-Chris Roth Buildings LLC and the Urban Renewal Agency to extend the project completion date to the end of January.
Great. Does that mean it'll be done in January? Is that the plan now?
That's John Wales, Urban Development Director. Yeah, that's for the sidewalk improvements.
Right.
Yeah.
And it will be done on January?
Yes.
In January.
We think they'll be
Yes.
sooner.
The
but-
business says some of them are open now, though.
Okay. We hope. Right. Okay.
Hearing good things.
Any other discussion on this? Questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. We have no further business in front of the Urban Renewal Agency. It's adjourned. Call to order the Salem City Council meeting for December 8th. The recorder please call the roll.
Counselor Bennett?
Here.
Counselor Tessler is absent. Counselor Nanki?
Here.
Counselor Clausen?
Here.
Counselor Dickey?
Here.
Counselor Rogers?
Here.
Counselor Benars?
Here.
Counselor Clem?
Here.
And Mayor Peterson's absent.
Okay, we have no additions or deletions to the agenda, so now's an opportunity for the council and city manager to comment. Councilor Nanki.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Friday evening, I had the pleasure of sitting in for the mayor at a meeting with the Korean Consul General from the Seattle area, celebrating the works of the Peace Corps members who journeyed off to Korea after the war to help rebuild, teach English, provide medical services. We had 3 members of K1, which was the first team in. Fantastic evening. I have a calendar that I'll be giving to the city manager for the mayor and city manager's office on the World Heritage in Korea. Fascinating. I've been there 3 times myself personally. Fantastic people. They love what we did for them. Bring them from the grips of communism, and Consul General Moon Dako expressed that, and every person who went there said they got more than what they gave. It's a fascinating culture, and it sparked me to get reinvigorated and involved again as well. So.
Are you going to join the Peace Corps?
No, sister city groups are good now.
Okay. I'm just going to...
Although
Just in case,
depending someday if I ever am able to retire, I may
into
go
that age.
spend a couple of years and teach English. They are always looking for educators, and you don't have to have a degree in education. It helps, but anyone with a 4-year degree, they'll actually pay for your lodging, your transportation, 1 to 2 year sets. I would encourage it.
That's great. Thank you very much. Any other councilor comments? I had the opportunity Friday evening to also take the mayor's place at a community event, the 19th annual tree lighting ceremony, which was attended by several hundred people. It was a really wonderful event. I really want to thank the city staff. There were a whole batch of folks who contributed to this from the private sector, from the city, Mark Bechtel and Becky George, particularly Becky. I thought it really was beautifully done.
Yes.
We had the Sumter Elementary School Stingrays there singing. Santa Cliff arrived, and it was really delightful. So I recommend it, as I know all of you have participated in this at various times. It just gets bigger and better, I think, each year. The city staff does a remarkable job, the public works staff in particular, along with the parks folks, which is part of public works, I guess. So broad group. One other thing I just wanted to mention, just as an aside, we're working now on which of the neighborhoods will have we'll be working on a neighborhood plan over the next couple of years. I just want to share one thought. Having just been through one with Nen and Cessna, as councilors are looking at recommending their neighborhoods, I just want to let you know this takes an enormous amount of time. You really owe your neighborhoods, I think, attendance at these sessions, and they are pretty demanding. Although the city staff, Lisa and Eunice, do a remarkable job, it is really probably as good a neighborhood group building opportunity, as well as an opportunity for counselors to meet a lot of their neighbors that they may not have met except every 4 years when they're going door to door. It really is quite good. So right now we have only one duo that has applied, Nesca and Lansing, and have been recommended, I know strongly, by Councilors Dickey and Councilor-elect Daniel Benjamin. So Dickey and Benjamin are up for it, right? Why not? Yeah. If you haven't burned off your Tuesday nights yet, you will. Yeah. Okay, great. Anything else?
I had a couple of things. The first one is the city's comprehensive annual financial report is finished, and it'll be on the website this week. That's really the summation of how we did in our budget last year and where we are overall in debt service and property tax, and a lot of really good financial information. If you don't have time to read through all the charts and graphs, I recommend that you at least read the first 4 or 5 pages. That's the executive summary, because it'll get you, as well as community members, a good idea of where we are financially, which is in good shape as we move forward. I wanted to say that with the Christmas or the holiday tree lighting, this year the Parks Department lit the main tree as well as 4 other supporting trees. So if you have a chance in the evening to go by Riverfront Park or drive by, you'll see that it's a very nice display this year. Another thing, Mike Palusuk is the new CEO of the Oregon State Fair Council. As you know, the Oregon State Fair Council is a new entity that the legislature set up last year. I sit as a member, as a city manager, as does the mayor, and there are about 11 positions altogether. We hired Mike, who has 30 or 40 years experience in state fairs, and I think is going to do a wonderful job. He's just getting started. Today he met with legislative leadership, and then he was at a chamber lunch at noon and just had a reception at Conditorei that Jerry Frank hosted for him so that he could meet other people in the community. We will in January have him come by at a public comment time just to say hello to the city council, and so you can get to meet him and find out what he's hoping to achieve here with the fairgrounds. Oh, and one other thing, Salem Speaks Up. I wanted to mention it's this week on Wednesday at the First United Methodist Church from 7 to 8 p.m. And I think it'll be a really good event and hope people can attend.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much. It's now public comment time. Rich Harcourt.
Thank you, Councilor Bennett. And councilors, Rich Harcourt for the Salem Public Art Commission for our annual hello, how are you, and answer any questions you may have. Item 7 on your calendar is the official Public Art Commission annual report with the pithy, penetrating prose of Kimberly Fitzgerald, with everything you ever wanted to know about what we did for the last year in 2 pages. So I'm not going to comment specifically on that. You have it in front of you. My purpose, though, is to express not only happy holidays to all of you, but also the appreciation that the Public Arts Commission and wants to state about the great support we've had from the City Council and from all of the staff, from the city manager on down. And I wanted to basically express first to Glenn Gross and his team for all the support that you've given us. We spent a lot of time doing our own work for those first couple of years, and it's great to have the kind of wonderful staff support right now with Kimberly Fitzgerald and Sally Studnar, and there to make ourselves so much more productive. Also, too, John Wales and your gang, and where's Cherie? She was there. Anyway, for all the help and support in getting the, helping us with the streetscape funding to move forward with the sighting of art on the streets of downtown Salem. And last but certainly not least, where are you hiding, Peter Fernandez and your gang? There you are. That's right. Well, he was behind someone there, but.
As I usually am.
But thanks to you, and specifically that we are now in the position to start putting sculpture out on the streets of Salem. We're very excited about that, and we're happy to hear that within a month or so, the Artwell period will be there to be able to really add that cube, that entitled cube, to that location. I see the flashing light, which is always the perfect time for me to say, are there any questions that you might have? I'm happy to answer them, or at least try to answer them.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Harker. I would like to ask a question. Where will the cube be located again?
It will be right in an Artwell corner at Liberty and State, in front of the new Roth McGilchrist building.
Ah, excellent.
So it'll be there, so you'll have that 19th century building and a 20th century piece of art in front of it with, I think, a very fascinating way. And also, I did want to mention that because of the work with Peter Fernandez's staff, we have now designated 9 other locations, 6 of which are within the historic district, landmark district, and that has been approved by the Landmarks Commission, so that we can now begin to put in rotated art and some permanent art in these locations. If you have not seen that location of those 9 spaces in downtown, it might be a good idea that they receive copies of those so you'll know where, right after the cube is there, what the next one is. Okay?
And we'll send that to council.
Great, thank you.
Councilor Nanki.
Thank you. So do we have to have historic art in the historic area?
That's a question I would yield to Kimberly over here, but we've already gone through part of that process, as you know, Councilor, and we do not have to have 19th century art in front of 19th century buildings.
Councilor Clem.
Thank you, Councilor Bennett. Rich, thank you. I just want to comment that, I don't remember how long ago it was that we started talking about forming an arts commission, but yeah, I think one of my biggest concerns was that it would be done with taste, it would be done with a good business case, that it would be accepted by the public, that it would spruce, make us even look better, and you and the commission have done that. So thank you for making this thing a complete home run for Salem.
Thank you for allowing me then to add one more point, Councilor, and that's the fact that we had that great meeting with the commission and the city council last May. At that time, we made that decision based on all that commentary to start a strategic plan. That is in process right now with Courtney Knox-Bush working with us on it. We expect to have the first draft ready by perhaps April or May, and then we will bring it back to the council, hash through it, and then we'll have a strategic plan for putting art in the downtown area. We don't believe in the line that says if you don't know where you're going, any road will do. In this case, we want our roads mapped out so that we can really expand and make this a much more art-filled city.
Thank you.
Without us picking the colors.
Thank you very much.
Thank you now.
I have no other public comment. Anyone signed up, rather, for public comment? Is there anyone who'd like to address the city council? All righty. Councilor Nanki, the consent calendar.
Why, thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I would move the consent calendar as provided.
Second.
Second by Bernards. Did you want to comment on this?
Yes, if I could. There's 2 items on the consent calendar action item section this evening. One is recommended action finding the leasehold space at 365 Ferry Street Southeast, Suite B, that it's not needed for public use, and authorize the city manager to execute a new lease for that space where there'll be a cell phone, graphic design, and advertising business. And then secondly, appointments to the Citizens Advisory Traffic Commission, a reappointment of a planning commissioner, and appointments to Salem Parks and Rec Advisory Board.
Great. Any comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we have 2 public hearings this evening. I'll open the first one, naming an unnamed street in West Salem as Oakview Lane Northwest. It's in Ward 8. And we have a staff report.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Julie Warnicki. I'm the Transportation Planning Manager with the Public Works Department. And tonight's public hearing is regarding the naming of an unnamed street. Just to get you oriented, this street is in West Salem. It is about a 300-foot long street connecting Eola Drive to Moore's Way. And so, yeah, it's just north of Edgewater there. So the background on this is that there was a partition case this past summer that created a new lot that would have access to this unnamed local street. And so a condition of the partition was that the street be named in order to facilitate, emergency response, et cetera. And because the street arguably should have been named when it was created as opposed to now, it was determined that it made sense to be a city-initiated street naming. The right-of-way, this is a substandard street. It's only 32 feet wide on the west half and 20 feet on the east half. This shows an aerial image. The yellow box is the new lot that was created from the larger rectangle that previously was a single lot. The house that is already on that lot is the existing house, and so a new house will be constructed along Longview. The new house is the existing house, subject of the partition, is the only house that will be addressed off of this new street. All of the other houses are addressed off of the adjoining streets. So we have gone through the required process by code, and the proposed name is Oakview Lane Northwest, and that complies with our street naming standards. We provided public notice of tonight's hearing. I received one inquiry from an adjacent property owner just asking for some clarification, which was provided, and I don't believe they had any further concerns. And so the staff recommendation is to approve the naming of this unnamed street as Oakview Lane Northwest. I'd also like to enter the staff report into the record at this time, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Guess not. I don't have anyone signed up to testify on this. Is there anyone that wanted to testify on this item? Okay. Still no questions. Thank you. Okay, Counselor, I'm going to close the public hearing. Counselor Clem.
I move that council advance ordinance bill 28-14, naming an unnamed street in West Salem as Oakview Lane Northwest, and the second reading for enactment.
Second by Bernards. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. 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 All opposed? Motion passes. We have a second public hearing. I'll open on unsolicited written materials ordinance. Brady? Oh, I'm sorry. Could you read the title? I apologize.
Ordinance Bill 1511, an ordinance relating to solid waste, creating new provisions and amending Salem Revised Code Section 47.25.
Thank you. Mr. Rogers.
Good evening, councilors. My name is Brady Rogers. I'm the Administrator, Neighborhood Enhancement Division. Before you tonight is, once again, the unsolicited written materials ordinance, which would require delivery of unsolicited written materials to be placed on a porch or delivered in person to individual addresses in Salem.
Any questions? Councilor Clem?
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, with regard to this ordinance, the public hearing for both comment and in writing is still open. I
Right,
just
we
wanna-
do have someone to comment tonight.
Okay,
But I just I need to get him up here.
okay, thanks.
You're on. Right there. If you would introduce yourself and your address.
Name is Paul Netland. I'm the distribution manager for the Statesman Journal. I've been there for approximately 3 years now, in this position for almost a year.
Okay. Did you want to testify on this?
Yeah, I mean, I've met with you and Brady in the last couple weeks, understand your concerns, and this has been an ongoing contentious issue, is my understanding, for a number of years, and I'll try to be brief here. I can tell you, in looking back at the history of the complaints, back in 2011, we had almost 1,500 requests to stop the delivery from individuals. So far this year, and it's decreased every year. This year, we're down to 222 as of last Sunday. So each year, we're getting better. It's not all the way there, but we're getting there. Couple things that we're doing here at the paper that we're changing. On each bag that we deliver the paper in, there's supposed to be a phone number, a local phone number that somebody can call and reach somebody at our office and stop that delivery. In taking a look at it, it isn't perfectly clear that it's to stop it. It just says for service call, and it has a number. We're going to change that where it's easily understandable. To stop this service, call this number. So that should be implemented sometime probably in February or March. That's when we expect those new bags to arrive. The other thing that we've done is we're in the process of hiring an individual, a sole employee, that their job is to go out and verify delivery and verify stops. And they'll be doing that every week. So we're doing these things to hopefully get rid of the issue.
Appreciate it. Any questions? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thanks for coming down.
You bet.
Who actually delivers these extra flyers? Is that a paid party that does the entirety?
No,
or is it
they're-
broken up similar to the carriers?
It's similar to the carriers. They're all independent contractors. We've got about 75 of them.
Because I noticed that the report said we've actually slid back a little ways in the last 6 months.
Yeah.
Where people have called to actually have it stopped and it wasn't. How does that communication move to the carrier?
What happens is, with this issue, if somebody calls in to our office, it is immediately emailed to me, the district manager, and a carrier message goes out. The district manager for that area is supposed to follow up with the carrier verbally, and out of those 222 requests to stop, we've had 25 that have come back a second time. And that's really where a big part of the issue is this second and third requests. We haven't had any third requests this year, but we've had second requests, and we can certainly do better.
Okay, just having been 45 years ago when I was delivering the paper in Waterloo, it's like, I'm assuming they just have a pile of these then, and it's not, because it was like, I have an extra paper, or I don't have enough papers to get that last house. Are they just...
They have a list of addresses and streets that they're supposed to deliver and not deliver.
And they have only the amount of materials to perform that delivery?
Yes.
So they would know at the end of their route if
Right, if
they
they've
had
got too many or too few.
made a mistake.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Councilor Clem.
Thank you. Paul, do you believe that, given this renewed interest, the clarification on the bag and the extensive work that you folks want to do, that you can get this problem solved in 6 months? Second week of May, 6 months from now?
I would love to tell you that the problem's going to go away forever and ever, but as long as you're dealing with human beings and you have turnover, there's a lot of turnover in this industry with our carrier force, and that's a lot of times where those problems come up. Whenever there's a turnover, you've got training issues, and it takes a while. So they're going to be out there, but I'd like to just, keep continuing to whittle away to where it's really almost a non-issue.
And how many of these are distributed on, I believe it is Wednesday, that these extra advertising pamphlets are distributed in plastic bags?
How many of them?
Yeah, how many total?
45,000 a week, or about 2.3 million deliveries a year.
So we got 44,700 of them working. It's about 200 that's people are complaining about.
Over a year's time.
Okay, so there's progress being made, but at the rate you're going.
It does keep getting better.
Okay, thanks.
Councilor Dickey.
Thank you. Yeah, I just have a couple questions, and I think I heard the answer when Councilor Nanke asked his question, but how communication gets to you when someone requests that, and is that the same as if a subscriber requests like a vacation stop? Is it the same kind of process that gets the information to you?
No, with a vacation stop with our normal paper, somebody calls a call center, and we have one in Kentucky and 2 or 3 others throughout the United States, and you're dealing with somebody that's not local, and that's a whole nother issue. With this issue, we wanted to make sure that we dealt with it locally and we got to it as quickly as we could. So literally, there's somebody that's right down the hall from me that's taking these phone calls, and will come down and let me know whenever we get a call like this. So.
Yes.
And I'm just curious, so when you get your new bags with the phone number on there, will there be an online opportunity for someone to request, like email or something on a website, or do they have to make a phone call to request a stop?
We can certainly put an email address on there. Bags haven't been ordered yet, so we're waiting on the artwork, but that's easy to add. Yeah.
One question I had, is this the only controlled circulation publication you all will be putting out this year? Are you looking at a second day, or?
We're looking at, it's called a Sunday Select, and it's for folks that have they've stopped their publication, and it's an opt-in. It's different, so you've got to request it to get it. And there's going to be about 10,000 circulation is our goal. But again, that's an opt-in. You have to ask for it. It's an actual address that we're delivering to with somebody that's requested that publication.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great. Any other questions? Am I missing? I'm sorry.
Thank you. The Sunday, that would be delivered on Sundays then?
It'll be delivered Saturday or Sunday, yes.
Okay.
Over a 2-day period.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Okay. Chair moves this public. Yeah, about to move.
But he's not going to close the public hearing because I'm assuming it's going to be a continuation of that.
Chair moves the ordinance public hearing remain open for 6 months for written comment, and we take it up on a date certain.
Second.
6 months. Second by
months is
Clem.
good.
Councilor Dickey?
Yeah, is this an appropriate time to ask questions of staff?
It is a perfect
time. Okay. So I have a question for Brady Rogers. Under this ordinance, so we've primarily been talking about the free newspaper that gets delivered, and it could be other things. It's not just the newspaper, but there are other things that show up. So someone subscribes to the newspaper and they request a vacation stop from the newspaper, but the newspaper continues to deliver papers to their residents while they're on vacation. Would that be an unsolicited written material if they've been asked to stop and they don't?
I'm not exactly certain. I don't know. I really don't know. I would assume it's not unsolicited because you're paying for the subscription. It's just unwanted at that moment in time, so I don't think this ordinance would cover it.
Okay, motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Councilor Bernards?
Brady, thanks for coming in. So I understand that the newspaper gets complaint. Do you receive complaints down here at the city?
Occasionally, very few. The ones we get are people that are extremely frustrated and have been trying to contact the statesman and haven't been successful, and then we end up connecting them up with the publisher. And that's how I met Paul and Terry Horn this last couple of months ago. But we don't, it's not a violation now, so it's not, the phone calls, we don't tally them, we don't track them, it doesn't become part of our statistics. But we probably get, 5 or 7 or 8 a year, even though we're not in the business of enforcing this.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
1 nay, Bernards. Motion carries. Information reports. Anyone have any questions on information reports? Do we have a presentation on any of these?
No, we have the administrative purchases that you receive every month. And then the second one is a summary of the November 12th City Council work session to give some high-level budget direction. So you may want to read through that and let us know in January if you have any changes. And I would like to call your attention to the attachment. You have 2 charts, one that shows change in assessed taxes, and the other one shows you asked about foreclosure and resales and how that has gone. And you can see we had a peak of foreclosures during the recession years, but that's dropped off pretty substantially. So that's very good news for the housing market in this area.
Any comments on any of the information reports? Any? Yes, Councilor Nanki.
Yes, I just thought it might be nice in the future when we have an information report on the Public Art Commission that the font be a little more flamboyant.
Okay. Least colorful.
Jeez. There's always an art critic, you know, the taste just comes with the territory, Rich. Okay, we'll move on to ordinances, first reading. The recorder would like to start with the first reading.
Ordinance Bill 23-14 relating to the adoption of the Nen-Cessna Neighborhood Plan, a component of the Salem Area Comprehensive Plan, and amending Salem Revised Code Section 64.005.
Motion, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move staff recommendation to hold a public hearing and the balance of what's contained in staff recommendation.
Second.
Second by Dickey. Any discussion? Well, I think you'll find this real interesting. This was really, I mentioned it earlier in my counselor comment, this is really an interesting process, and I think you'll find from the I hope people from Nen and Cessna will come. I think they will. They've been at each of the Planning Commission discussions of this as well, but it is really an interesting process. I hope you get a chance to take a look at the plan and realize just how really well thought out it is and forward thinking. This is really a fascinating thing to do with your neighborhoods. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. second reading ordinances.
Ordinance Bill Number 26-14 relating to goats for clearing vegetation, amending Salem Revised Code Section 400.120.
And a roll call.
Roll call, yeah, sorry.
Thank you. Counselor Bennett?
Aye.
Counselor Nanki?
Nay.
Counselor
Oh,
Clausen?
excuse me. Aye.
It's
Sorry,
goats.
looking at the wrong one here.
Counselor Clausen?
Aye.
Counselor Dickey?
Aye.
Counselor Rogers?
Aye.
Counselor Bednarz?
Aye.
Counselor Clem?
Motion passes. Ordinance passes, I guess. And the next one.
Ordinance Bill Number 27-14 relating to creating a new chapter of the Salem Revised Code, Chapter 45, smoking, and declaring an effective date.
Roll call.
Counselor Tessler is absent. Counselor Nanki?
Nay.
Counselor Clausen?
Aye.
Counselor Dickey?
Aye.
Counselor Rogers?
Aye.
Counselor Bednarz?
Aye.
Counselor Clem?
Aye.
Counselor Bennett?
Aye. Okay, the ordinance passes. Someone signed up for public comment. This is the chance for the public to comment on issues other than those on the agenda. Is there anyone here to comment? Any issues? Okay. Do we have a canvas of the vote? We have one mayor's item. This is a proclamation of a canvass of the votes from the November 4th, 2014 general election. Whereas a general election was held on the 4th day of November 2014, at which candidates of certain offices and 11 ballot measures were voted upon, and whereas the results of the election have been recorded in the minute record of the council. Now, therefore, this is on behalf of Anna Peterson, Mayor of the City of Salem, Oregon, proclaim and declare that at said election, Anna Peterson was duly elected mayor, Tom Anderson was duly elected Councilor Ward 2, Steve McCoy was duly elected Councilor Ward 4, Daniel. Just one moment here. We'll get this one right. Daniel Benjamin was duly elected Councilor Ward 6. Jim Lewis was duly elected Councilor Ward 8. Jay Nakin was duly elected Municipal Judge. And the following ballot measures were approved by the voters and are adopted. Ballot measure 24-376, annexation of 0.61 acres. Ballot measure 24-377, annexation of 1.08 acres. Signed this day, signed at Salem, Oregon, this 8th day of December 2014. Okay. No counselor items. We are adjourned. We'll be going into executive session.